And welcome back, RFCLA fans, to Notes from the Clubhouse, Episode 7. I'm your host, as always. My name is Joshua Shibata, and kind of a smaller episode just because of what's been going on with Storm Week. It is the second game, technically, of the week for RFCLA. We got a lot, though, to go over, especially with what just happened recently in a couple of days in Boston. But the boys are in good spirit, and we are looking forward to a huge game, one half of a doubleheader of rugby in Los Angeles at the Wallace Annenberg Stadium on the campus of UCLA. Of course, I'll go into all of that, but we have some exciting stuff coming up ahead. But unfortunately, we do have to start the episode on a down note, going into Boston, taking on the two-time reigning and defending MLR champions, the New England Free Jacks, who have looked like they're coming back to form. RFCLA going in with not necessarily the strongest of squads because of Storm Week, preparation for the upcoming game with San Diego back home. But it was a valiant effort, and unfortunately, just a couple of points short. New England held on to win 23-21. Some highlights in that game, we had Rory Van Buut scoring his fifth try of the season to start off the game for RFCLA. By the half, RFCLA is up 14-3. Unfortunately, though, we've seen this before where RFCLA starts off hot and then somehow falls apart. A lot of the things that are a little frustrating about this game is because a lot of the things that came up to lead to the game possibly being a win and ended up becoming a loss are the things that we've already seen before. Ill discipline by RFCLA. In the first half, New England actually had more penalties going against them 10-8. But then by the second hydration break in the second half, RFCLA caught up with 13 penalties overall just to New England's 11. New England only had one penalty in the second half at that point, while RFCLA had 5. Another thing is the maul defense that RFCLA has been very, very lacking. New England did score one of their tries through that maul defense. And then the big kicker, literally, didn't mean to make the joke, no pun intended on that one, but Dan Hollinshead, I forgot to mention about this in the last episode, but this was the return of Dan Hollinshead to Major League Rugby. If that name sounds familiar, Dan Hollinshead was the fly half for RFCLA last season. I'll be brutally honest, he struggled quite a bit last season for RFCLA. I believe his kicking accuracy came out to about 60%, which is very low. Did not come back this season, obviously. But he then got picked up by New England a couple of weeks ago, just because unfortunately New England has been dealing with a lot of injuries, especially to that fly-half position, Jason Patros, who has been by far one of the main reasons why New England has 2 titles under their belt. And then Philatoni Penny, who unfortunately just got hurt a couple of games ago. So Dan Hollinshead has stepped in, and boy, was he the difference maker in this game. I hate to say it, but he was. He was 4 for 4 off of the tee, 3 penalty kicks. Now, those penalty kicks, unfortunately, were a lot to do with RFCLA more so than New England, because you get the opportunity to do a penalty kick if the other team gives up a penalty. And unfortunately, as I mentioned, RFCLA gave up a lot of penalties, and Dan Hollinshead took those opportunities and cashed in on them. 3 penalty kicks off of the tee is 9 points. We lost by 2. The math kind of says it for itself. If RFCLA was a little bit more disciplined, we could have won that game. Hats off, though, to Semi Kunatani. Only his first try of the season, second try of the season, but it was a very important one because at that point, RCLA needed to get within 7 to get at least a bonus point, and we were able to do that literally in overtime. And so in the end, the game was 23-21. RCLA only lost by 2, gets the bonus point though, so doesn't leave Boston empty-handed. That try actually is Semi Kunatani's 11th try as a RFCLA member. He is now tied with Andrew Coe for the most tries by an RFCLA team uh, member, and he is now number one in points scored for RFCLA with 59 points, just a little bit ahead of Christian Lealifano. I do want to mention Oscar Lennon, the New England player. He unfortunately suffered a very severe injury, a real scare. Somehow he got tackled from behind by a fellow New England mate, and then his head went into the knee of Matt Heaton, and unfortunately he had to be stretchered away. Don't know the status of him. Of course, we hope here at the podcast that he is okay. But again, it was a good game watching it because, and again, not the full squad RFCLA, and we'll mention this when we talk about Storm Week in San Diego. We had no Billy Meeks, we had no Jason Dom, Christian Lealifano, Andrew Gonzalo Bertrano was coming off of the bench, so not necessarily your full squad. But again, New England didn't necessarily have their full squad either. And as I mentioned in last podcast episode, the difference will be in how the reserves are played. And it just felt like New England played just a little bit better in the second half. Not by much, and that's why the score was only a 2-point difference, but was enough to get the win. It's a little frustrating because that could have been a win for LA and much needed momentum going into our upcoming game, the Cali Cup, here in LA Saturday at Wallace Annenberg Stadium. It's a very, very important game, and that momentum would have really helped a lot. But it is what it is. And fortunately, I had the opportunity to talk to the very talented Ben Houston, who also didn't make the trip to New England. He was given the chance to rest. I picked his brain on exactly how this Storm Week scheduling is playing out and what are the coaches' strategies? What is the team strategy as they're now rebounding from the loss to New England and with only a couple days preparation, preparing for a huge, huge matchup with rival San Diego? What is the strategy going into this Cali Cup? Last time we played San Diego, didn't go so well for us in San Diego, but it wasn't bad. I mean, we lost, I think it was 36-28, I think was the score. So it was competitive. But what is the strategy going into this game now at home against San Diego?
Well, I think our biggest thing against San Diego, that was our issue, was our discipline. Like, I think we played half an hour with 13 people or
Yeah.
14 people. So
Yeah.
I think personally, if we had 15 people on the field, I think it would be a different result. So I think with the Cali Cup as well, obviously I've only played in one of them. And I'm also playing a fair few of my mates down in San Diego. I guess you just got to get that balance of emotional control and obviously just overall gamesmanship. But obviously, we haven't spoken too much about San Diego because the boys have been all focused on New England. But I don't think. Obviously, we'll talk about that tomorrow, and then we'll be full charge ahead for San Diego. But I think a massive thing is if we control our discipline, we're going to go real close to getting our hands on that cup.
Do you feel any, I don't want to say it's pressure, but do you feel anything different with the fact that you have, like I said, you had a game? I mean, you didn't take part in the game, but you do have some of your teammates that will be playing in both games. But you have the team that were playing yesterday, and now you kind of have to, you only get like a 2-day window theoretically to now get ready for what's pretty much a very big game. I mean, do you feel any pressure or anything different, maybe less prepared, or is it you just have to deal with that?
I think there's an element of dealing with that because every team sort of is in the same boat. Like
Sure.
every team has to have their short turnarounds, and
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think it's we can't really say why us because everyone's going through it.
Sure.
But I don't think there's any added pressure because everyone like was like no one's really thought about San Diego obviously before like
Mm-hmm.
until now really. Obviously
Right.
everyone's minds are now to San Diego, but I don't think there's any added pressure or anything. And it's the joys of rugby, I guess, because once you get knocked back down, like you have to get back up. So
Right.
and it all adds to the story. Like if you get two out of the three gritty wins, like that goes massively for your mental capacity of the overall
Sure.
team because like when you like when everyone's down, everyone's hurting. Like the other team's in the same boat, so
Mm.
it's 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 a tough period, but I think the boys will cope all right. Like obviously, those boys that will play this weekend will just double load their management.
Mhm.
But if you get the recovery right, eat well, sleep well, I think a lot of the boys will be fine.
I want to thank Ben Houston for that interview and his thoughts on preparation for San Diego. Ben is such an amazing player. His first year here in RFCLA and in Major League Rugby, I have a full length interview with him about his career, his start, a lot of connections that he has with our coaching staff and with a lot of the teammates that came over to RFCLA this season. That interview will be up on my YouTube channel over the weekend, so look out for that. But what we have to look out for before that is, of course, the Cali Cup with our bitter rivals in San Diego, the San Diego Legion, who have really, it's been very interesting and probably a very frustrating season for Legion fans. Legion starting off hot as the last team to be undefeated, 5-0 at the very beginning of the season. They have now dropped 4 straight since, and now they are kind of limping into this Cali Cup competition. The last time that we faced San Diego was in week 4, where we played them in San Diego and lost 28-36, another very close game. But again, there's a lot of parallels between that game and the recent game with New England. The San Diego game, we were leading at the half too, 14-10. And then in the second half, unfortunately, just a lot of things kind of turned around. As Ben Houston mentioned, there was a penalty try put against us. It was caused by a maul. Our maul defense is pretty horrible, so much so that we have to illegally try to pull the maul down to prevent it from scoring. That basically is a penalty. It leads to a penalty try. Not only if you're not very familiar with the rules in rugby, a penalty try is almost a double whammy against the other team, because not only do you get the try scored, you get the full 7 points because there's no conversion that has to be taken. You automatically get 7, and you lose a player in the sin bin as well. And as Ben Houston mentioned in our segment, it basically LA was playing at least a man or two down, because there was a yellow card and a red card in that game. So, the fact that LA only lost by 8 points says a lot. But if LA is ill disciplined in this upcoming game in LA, the results may end up being the same. We should also mention in that game, Ed Timpson had 2 tries. He looked phenomenal in that game, and he will be playing again in this upcoming rematch. So let's talk about that. Now, with San Diego, it's kind of interesting. As I mentioned before, they started off undefeated. And, a lot of other teams like New England, Seattle, they've been struggling a lot this season. And you can arguably say it's because of the injuries. But San Diego, this lineup that is here right now is literally the same lineup as the one that faced LA 4 weeks ago, back at week 4. There's only a couple of changes, 3 players in particular. Instead of Nelson Judge starting, you have him on the bench, and Connor Tupai is in. Instead of Tion Lutz starting, it will be Maluia, who was on the bench during the first game against LA. And then instead of Lopetti, he's going on to the bench. And then Marcel Brocchi, a USA capped Eagles player, is going to be on instead. So only 3 changes, but it's practically the same team. Yep. And this has practically been the same way for San Diego this whole season. But for whatever reason, they have really fallen flat. So I don't know what it has led up to that. I know there's probably been a lot of frustration on the team side. I know the fans have been very frustrated. And so it'll be very interesting to see how San Diego approaches this game. Also should be noted that San Diego then has to play against Seattle. I'm sorry, not Seattle. They then have to play again in a couple of days against Utah. They have Utah on, I believe, Wednesday. So they have only 4 days where they have to turn around to play against Utah in Utah. And here's the kicker. They just played Utah last weekend and got pretty much destroyed. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to be the mindset of the San Diego squad, having to face not only a very important game in the Cali Cup rivalry with LA, with us, and then having to jump into a plane to go to Utah, who just manhandled them at home. It's going to be a tough one for San Diego. And this game is very, very important for both San Diego and for us because on the standings, San Diego is, we are just 1 point, we are 2 points behind San Diego. We are 1 point ahead of Seattle, who is in that last fifth place spot in the Western Conference. And if you're not familiar with the playoff format for this season, which is similar to last season, 4 teams in each conference make the playoffs. So the top 4. There's only 5 teams in the Western Conference. So only 1 team is going to be out. Right now, that's Seattle. But like I said, they are 1 point away from us. We're on 4th. We are 2 points away from San Diego. If we beat San Diego, we jump. And then, unfortunately, we do have to play Seattle next Friday. So these next couple of weeks are going to be super important when it comes to the playoff race, which is just right around the corner. Now let's go into our RFCLA lineup. So very different than how San Diego is. San Diego, very few changes. This RFCLA lineup, very different from the one that played against San Diego in week 4. But I do have to mention that I feel that lineup in San Diego was still the coaching staff trying to figure out the formula that works for LA. And so now this lineup looks a lot similar to the one that we've been seeing pretty recently. Again, the game against New England, there were a lot of players that had the opportunity to play that didn't normally play. Logan Isaacs was able to make his first start of the season. We got to see Robert Mappa play. So a lot of people who don't normally play got a chance to play. Sean Nolan got a start. Todd Smith got his first start at fly half. So those were all, again, kind of the management strategy for the team in preparation for the San Diego team. So this lineup looks a lot familiar to us with a couple of minor exceptions. Timothy Anstey, who's going to be starting at lock for the first time this season, normally as a flanker, he moves over, making room for Semi Kunatani to come in at the number 6 position. Normally, Semi will be at the number 8, but Ben Houston, who we just interviewed, he returns at the number 8 position, rested, taking the break from the New England game. Him and Semi being on the pitch at the same time, I feel is going to be phenomenal, especially when it comes to mauls, because Semi loves to run with the ball off the maul, and he totally takes people by surprise. The fact that you have the option to have him or Ben make that move is great. We already highlighted Ed Timpson at the number 7 flanker position. Scored 2 tries against San Diego in the first Cali Cup game this season. Hopefully he can find that magic again. The odd thing is the missing of Jason Dahm, our usual captain. This is the second game in a row that Jason Dahm was not able to play. He didn't make the trip to New England either, but it's weird that he's not playing in this game. So I don't know if this was Jason getting a much-needed rest, but we'll see. And then we have, of course, the pair of 9 and 10, Gonzalo and Christian Lealifano. Our back row looks pretty much the same as the back row that faced San Diego, with just a minor exception. Instead of Rory Van Voot being our fullback, he is at the number 14 winger position to replace the still injured Christian Dyer. And then coming in at fullback, Reese McDonald making his second start as an RFCLA player. He has been phenomenal. It'll be great to see him on the pitch to begin. And then your bench, we have a couple new faces. Justice Tavai, who we just recently picked up because our props, unfortunately, are really injury-riddled. I felt he looked phenomenal in his game, in his first time in the Major League Rugby and in RFCLA jersey, playing against New England. So he gets another chance to come off of the bench. And then you have also at 23, the return Seth Purdy, who we haven't seen since he unfortunately suffered a shoulder injury against NOLA, but he is back. He is going to be on the reserve, so it's great to see Seth back onto the squad. So with that being said, I really feel that we have a great chance to win this game against San Diego. Again, we lost to San Diego because of ill discipline, playing with practically 13 men for most of the game, and we only lost by 8 points. If we can clear up those penalties, if we can just play a little bit more disciplined, I don't know what's going on with San Diego. San Diego has been on this weird downslope. I feel we can take advantage of that. I also don't know where San Diego's headspace is in, because they know in just a couple of days they now have to face a very tough Utah team in Utah. So I mean, it's gonna be pretty rough for It's gonna be rough for everybody because of Storm Week. But I really feel San Diego's facing the worst dilemma, and I hope that our team can capitalize on that. So, with that being said, FYI, gold tickets are sold out for this game. It was just announced literally a couple minutes before I started doing this episode. Gold section tickets are our premier ticket seats. I believe those are in the middle of the bleachers, so those are completely sold out. All the other tickets are going fast, so get your tickets now if you want to join us tomorrow, Saturday, April 26th at Wallace Addenberg Stadium on the campus of UCLA. Kickoff time for the RFCLA San Diego game for the Cali Cup is at 3 p.m., but it is also a doubleheader with the women's USA team taking on the women's Japanese team. The first international test match for the women's of the USA Eagles of this year. That will take place right after the RFCLA San Diego game at 5:30. You can watch that game on Rugby Pass TV if you're not able to join us live. Of course, you can watch the RFCLA and San Diego game on ESPN Plus or on the local network. I believe it's FanDuel is what it's called now. But you could also watch on the ESPN Plus, on demand, or live. Tickets, again, are available at www.rugbyfcla.com. They are going fast, but the beauty is you can get a ticket for both games. The ticket will cover both games. You get a full day of rugby. 3 o'clock is the RFCLA San Diego game, and then 5:30 is the USA women's taking on Japan women's team. It is going to be awesome. The beauty is you start at 3 o'clock. We are going to end both games. The final game will end at 7 p.m. at least. So by the time you're done, you still have the rest of the night to enjoy in LA. So it is a full day of rugby, but still with plenty of time to do other things. What better way to do a Saturday here in LA than at Wallace Addenberg Stadium? Again, tickets are still available in a very limited quality at www.rugbyfcla.com. So check that out as soon as you can. It's going to be a great game. And again, I'm very excited for this. I hope to see everybody out. Of course, we are hoping that RFCLA walks away with the Cali Cup. First time for us. Keeping our fingers crossed and hoping for RFCLA. So as always, thank you very much for checking out my podcast. Spread the word. Let people know about notes from the podcast. And I hope to see you guys on the pitch.